Tonight was really special for us was because we like to feel very present wherever we go, and we're traveling around places. We like to feel present, and to us, one of the main reasons for picking Monterey to do this stopover that we're doing tomorrow was, of course, Steinbeck and the fact that he was, from this area. The Steinbeck Center, which some of us had visited, and we had friends and family that visited there, and they were extremely welcoming to us, and so that was down in Salinas, and so it sort of made sense to sort of celebrate not just John Steinbeck, but also the local area here by doing this tonight. So that was sort of the idea behind
it. It's just interesting, like, when we started coming to America to tour a few years ago, Steinbeck's writing really kind of came alive to me, starting to come to California and actually seeing these places. It sort of suddenly became very three-dimensional. It's just, I think, what I personally love about his work is that he doesn't shy away from the ugly stuff. Like, it's very human, very raw, very real matters that he likes to attack with his writing, and that just appeals to us. I think we like to write about things that we understand, human things,
Yeah, fantastic. And can you talk about Tim Shell a little bit, and about what that song is about and what it's trying to say? I know you don't really like talking about individual meanings of songs, but can you make an exception?
There are obviously bits in that song that were not just influenced by, but directly stolen from East of Eden. And the conversation that Lee has when he's talking about having gone through this process of reading up the story from Genesis of Cain and Abel, and the word Tim Shell. So he goes back, if you haven't read it, and I had to reread it before this because my memory is just shockingly. By the way, we feel completely out of our depth next to these two lovely ladies. We're like shaking back there drinking whiskey. But yeah, so Lee's having this conversation about how he went back and studied two different translations of that story of Cain and Abel, and how in one translation it says, thou shalt rule over sin, and in the other one it says, do thou rule over sin. So it's like either I'm going to get confused here because my mind isn't very sharp. But it's either a prediction like you will, or it's sort of forcing you to, so you have to. And he goes back and studies the word Tim Shell, and it's actually you can, thou mayest, and that just really leapt out at me immediately. I was just really, I think I sort of actually cried when I read that, and was just like blown away by the power of it, just because I thought it was a beautifully written passage about a subject that, is not just, it's about choice, really. It's about, and so, yeah, there are a couple of lines in that song that are directly ripped from Steinbeck. Thank you.
And the line about the ladder to the stars, that's from East of Eden, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And Ted, one of the things that people have said about your band and your music is they've associated it with this community and the way that you guys tour, what you sing about, and is there a sort of connection to Steinbeck in that at all?
Well, yeah, I guess it's one of the many things that's attracted us to his writing. I was talking to Marcus about it earlier. Like, one of the things I loved about Cannery Row is some of the characters who at first you think are going to be sort of less significant suddenly open up to you. Like, you learn about the madam at the whorehouse and how charitable she is, and these people sort of open up to you. So I just love the way he develops characters and makes people, he sort of makes you engage with them and makes you realize how deep and interesting every human being is, so yeah.
And we were also just talking about the camaraderie that you get in like Cannery Row and Tortilla Flat, and the way that he really understands community and understands especially men, I think, and the way that they work. Mac and the boys and Danny and his crew in Tortilla Flat. It's like, there's real comedy in there as well. He understands a real like broad range of community, from obviously the sadness and the tragedy and the violence like you talked about, but also the camaraderie and the sort of the joyful nature of being able to. And we sort of like, we're four boys on the road, so obviously reading those stories really is a fun thing to do for us.
Yeah. And Susan, you've written, haven't you, about the centrality of male friendship in Steinbeck, and how, in one thing that you sent me, you wrote about how actually it's an uncomplicated bond. It's uncomplicated by, it's less complicated than marriage with children and with bonds and with fidelity and sexuality. And is that something that you'd be able to sort of expand upon?
Well, I mean, most of his books are about friendship in one way or another. And it's always male friendship. And so rather than that being, like that he's, misogynistic in so doing, I think it's just that that's what he understood, and that's a kind of, he's celebrating, as you say, the joy and the parties and the sense of a kind of alternative way of living, a family. Because really, Mac and the boys are a family, as are the paisanos. So I'm sure you feel as if you're a family on the road. You
Sure.
create different kinds of bonds. And so he's really writing about alternative families, and they're male. And mice and men, like George and Lenny and then Candy, they all want to go out and find a sort of male utopia where everybody can work the land. So that was something he kept coming back to, Casey and Tom Joad. So.
Yeah, well, that was something that's really inspired us, and that kind of going after that glittering instrument and never giving up on it. It's a beautiful image,
Oh, just one of my favorite scenes in Tortilla Flat, which we started talking about, is one of the characters, Pirate, wants to give a candlestick to the church. So he has 5 dogs, and the dogs stay outside, and he walks into the church, and then all of a sudden, all the dogs come running down the aisle. And the priest says, "Let the dogs stay." I think St. Francis loved the animals. But it's just such a moment of pure empathy, and that's what I love about Steinbeck, and that's what that's the way it comes through for me, just that kindness.
Yeah.